Thank you, Jennifer. We are going to, I just wanted to say something at the very beginning. We are going to, about next month's presentation, that is going to be on the Washington State Supreme Court. If you ever have any questions about what it does, the Washington State Supreme Court Law Library, I should say, should clarify, what their services are, how you can use them, how you can access them, that's going to be our next month's program. And I'm kind of doing this because I like to give, we have noticed in First Tuesdays that people get off the desk at like 8:59 and they rush in, so I'm kind of stalling for just a minute because we notice that more and more folks are showing up just around 9:03, 9:04, so we're going to do that. But I'd also like to introduce us today. You have heard from Jennifer. She is a consultant here at the Washington State Library, as am I, Carolyn Peterson. And the two of us are going to be your facilitators today. We are asking you to, as Jennifer has said, to please type in your name and where you're from. And if you need technical support, please copy down this phone number or this email. And Joe is going to be our technical support today. Jeremy is out with a new baby. He and his wife have had a brand new little boy, and he is finding out firsthand how much you are sleep deprived with a new infant. So he isn't here today. We just have Joe with us. But Joe can help you with all of your questions. So I see that folks are typing in where they're from, and we appreciate that. Please do that. This event will be archived, and it will be up on the First Tuesday site usually by the afternoon. So we welcome you all again, and thank you for typing in where you're from. And of course, we also want to acknowledge our funders. We work for the Secretary of State, and they support us here. And we are also funded by funds from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Okay. Well, having gotten all those technicalities out of the way, and you've all typed where you're from and your library organization, and if you haven't, please do so. We would appreciate that. Our Office of Financial Management folks ask us to do that every time, and so we really appreciate your cooperation with us. It helps us to show where you're from and who we are serving in the state. So we appreciate that. I see folks have been doing that. Thank you. Okay, well now, having done that, I think it is time to go right to our guest speaker. We really appreciate her willingness to talk to us. Samantha Becker is the research manager for the U.S. Impact Study Research Group. And what this is a team of researchers at the University of Washington Information School. And her research group focuses on digital inclusion policy, public access technology, evaluation of public technology services, and how adults gain the skills necessary to use information and communication technology. So this is something that she is developing a tool for us to use to help understand our communities. And so with no further ado, I will turn it over to her. And as we go along, type in any questions you have, and I will bring them to Samantha's attention. So thank you very much for attending, and Samantha, it's all yours.
Thank you, Carolyn, for that introduction, and thank you everybody who's attending here today. I'm really happy to be able to share information about Impact Survey, which is a tool that we developed at the University of Washington Information School to help libraries, as Carolyn said, understand their communities better, and also gather information you can use for advocacy and planning. So as I said, advocacy and planning are both activities that need information to support them. And libraries have been building out their activities around the digital divide and digital inclusion over the past 10 or 12 years. Using technology to improve their communities. But offering those services really requires that we keep up with what the needs of our communities are and continuously evolve and change and grow in order to support positive outcomes for those folks. So everything that we do in in the U.S. Impact Study in my research group is really centered on the idea that public libraries and other organizations involved in this work create value to their communities by supporting people and communities in their goals, like economic self-sufficiency or healthy living or better urban planning. And so how libraries mobilize their technology to support those individual and community goals is something that requires a lot of planning and a lot of communication with the communities. So what Impact Survey does is it helps facilitate a particular method of survey to help libraries collect some of that information that they need to ensure that they're offering to their communities things that are valuable and that they're able to also communicate that value effectively. So what is it? What is this Impact Survey tool? Well, it's more than just a survey. It is a survey instrument that asks patrons about how they use technology, but it's also been developed so that libraries can use it very easily to survey their patrons and saves a lot of time and money, as I'll explain, in doing that work yourself. So what it does is it easily allows you to gather this information about how your patrons are using technology. It analyzes the data that is collected through the survey and provides to you documentation and resources specifically designed to help you with internal planning and benchmarking or showing results to your community. And those pieces are really also designed for advocacy as well. So we kind of take all that data and produce another number of different documents for you that you can then take the data and put it into immediate use. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about how we developed Impact Survey. It really kind of grew organically into something that we recognized might be useful, and so we were able to continue working on it. It's based on our research work from 2009, Opportunity for All, the first national study of how the public uses internet access at public libraries. And that study, part of the goal was to just understand across the country how people use internet access, but another goal of that study was actually to develop indicators that could be used to measure how the public benefits or the outcomes that they experience. So we, as most research studies go, there's a short period of time where you're actually gathering the data, and there's a very long period of time when you're planning for that, and then there's another long period of time when you're analyzing. But in the planning process, we developed this survey and we tested the survey, and it became an instrument that we saw could be useful to other libraries to use for their own purposes. And the reason for that is that the survey showed a lot of really important things. It showed how communities' use of technology improved people's lives in real ways, like getting accepted into college or getting hired for a job, or actually changing exercise or diet behaviors after using library computers. And these statistics that we gathered at the national level were really powerful. One of the most powerful things was how much in the study, and this is both from the survey and the case studies, how much it was clear that librarians really make a big difference. It's not just the technology that we're talking about, but what enables patrons to actually achieve their outcomes using the technology oftentimes is the one-on-one interactions that they receive from library staff. And that was a really motivating factor for us because we wanted to make sure that these library staff people who engage in this intensive activity with patrons were able to get out and talk to their communities about it in a way that both told a compelling story of a particular patron who did something amazing with the help of the library, but connect that with data that can show policymakers not just the depth of the experience, but also the potential breadth. In other words, you know, if one person found a job and that changed their lives, imagine what is possible when 20 or 30 people are experiencing that same kind of benefits. We also observed in the survey, what we did during the study was we asked public libraries across the country to help supplement our telephone survey results with a web survey. And in doing that, we were able to use technology to figure out what libraries had generated which responses. And that allowed us in turn to take the data from particular libraries that helped us and give it back to them, just their library's information, for them to use as they saw fit. And we had about 400 libraries that helped with this, and we gathered about 50,000 survey responses in a 10-week period. So we also learned something there, which is that public library users are unusually willing to take surveys, which is good news for us because it certainly helps. But what we saw was that the libraries, when we returned the data to the libraries, we figured that they would, you know, find it interesting, that it might help them somewhat. But we really heard a lot of much stronger uses of those reports. We heard about libraries taking their survey results to county commissioners, to city councils, getting things in the newspaper, and oftentimes, and this was in 2010, using the data in a way that actually helped them get funding back that was going to be cut because they were able to provide this evidence that people were indeed using the library for really important, what we call instrumental activities. So we took all of that, and what we did was we decided that we would create a tool that would allow libraries to use the survey that we had to develop whenever they felt the need, hopefully at least annually, to survey their patrons' activities and needs. And in order to make it work, we needed to lower the labor intensiveness of offering it and figure out a way for libraries to do it self-service, and for us to have the technology that would support them doing that. So kind of on a philosophical level, the whole process, the survey, and the way that we use the survey is structured around an evaluation framework. The idea is that you know what your inputs are, how many computers you have, how many staff you have, how much money you spend, and what we're trying to do is connect those inputs with the activities like offering public access sessions or training classes or one-on-one help with the outcomes that patrons are experiencing. And we're also positioning the impact survey tool in the middle of that that has its own a way of thinking about it, that if you run this survey, then you get this information and you can do things to both increase the value that you're creating, so making good decisions about resource allocation, and also, and that adds to advocacy, so improving services and having advocacy information, double the effect of those activities. And that leads to this cycle of recognition in your policymakers and your funders that your services are valuable and deserve to be sufficiently funded. So what we try to do is take a lot of the time and expense out of you having to create your own survey to get this information. So we're giving you access to this well-designed, tested, and validated survey that we built instead of you having to design your own questions and figure out what to ask, and making sure that the questions that you're asking are interpreted by the respondents in the same way, so it's valid and it's reliable. We're also trying to save you money for subscriptions to SurveyMonkey or other online survey tools that you might need or use, the time that it takes to actually program those surveys and get them up, or the time it takes even to create a paper survey and do data entry with a paper survey. And then we're also trying to save you time in analyzing the results. So even if you use SurveyMonkey, somebody still has to take that data and create pie charts and graphs and put it on a pretty document that you can share with others. So we want to save you a lot of that time and effort by creating reports from your data that are custom and that you can just click a button and download. And then we also want to provide to you through educational materials on our site ways of presenting that data to decision makers and funders that we've found through our research are particularly useful. So we want to kind of give that whole package to you and take a lot of time and energy out of the process of evaluation, and hopefully that will both, meet the immediate goals of saving you time and money and getting you information, but also serve a larger goal, which is to get the library involved in and using evaluation and evaluative techniques to aid them in planning and in advocacy. And so to that end, the survey itself is focused on outcomes. We do ask a whole series of questions about how often people use the library and library technology, how they use the library's website, and the types of materials that are available through those. But really the meat of the survey is about activities relating to these 8 core outcome areas. And we ask both about types of activities that people might engage in. So for example, in civic engagement, they may get information from news about current events. That's a civic engagement activity. Or they may also join a community group or political, join in a political activity because they had access to the internet. So we really get down to some very concrete outcomes that we identified through previous research as positive outcomes that can be, that public access can contribute to. So that's kind of the background on what it is and why we built it and what we hope libraries can use it for, although I'm sure that there are other uses you all will think up. What I want to do now is talk about really the nuts and bolts of how it works and show you that it's a tool that almost any library can use regardless of the level of your technology skills or the type of technology support that you have in the library. So we've tried to make this a pretty easy application for people, and basically the level of technology skills that you need is about what you would need to update a web page. So here's how it works. You would log in, you would create an account. We've already loaded the system with information about all the libraries in the United States. So we have the things that are included in the annual surveys that you do. That helps us fill in some blanks that we're interested in for our research purposes. It's also information that we print in the comprehensive report. You're given a chance to update it. You can update, if you've opened or closed a branch or you've moved or something like that. don't have the correct information, you're given the opportunity to update that. We also ask a series of questions about your library, and that information is kind of both to include in your reports and also to help us with our research. Then what you get is some code. Yes. Hello?
Okay, we're just having, Samantha, we just lost you there for a minute, but it's okay now. Great. So we just had a little hiccup.
Oh, it's okay. Sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't notice. Okay, so then you're given some little pieces of code that help you install links to the survey on your website and in other places to help you get people interested in answering the survey. You can then run the survey on your websites and in other places for a period of time, usually 2 to 6 weeks. And then as soon as you take the survey done, the very next day you go back to your account and you're able to download these lovely full-color formatted reports, of which there are several for different purposes. So that's kind of the basics of it. A little bit more detail just to give you an idea of the technology. What we give you, and you can see down here at the bottom, that there's a little bit of code, and that code is customized for your library. It's embedded with an ID for your library. And all you have to do is copy that code right out of the box and paste it into your library's website. We have a whole bunch of different buttons and banners and a light box that let you set up your website very easily. You're also, excuse me, welcome to use your own button. But for libraries that maybe don't have as much technology support, this little snippet of code will make the button itself appear, so you don't even have to download an image file and place that somewhere on your website folders. But you can do that if you want. So we provide all of the instructions. There are some times when things don't work exactly as we would expect. Some libraries have content management systems that don't always appreciate having a light box or a pop-up or something like that imposed over that. We've been able to work with libraries that encounter problems with all but one library that we were able to fix and help with. And really, our technicians are here to help libraries. We understand that libraries vary in their technology capacity quite a bit, and we're here to really help and walk through. And in some cases, that would even involve us downloading or exchanging your index file, placing the banner into that, and then sending it back to you to upload. So we're here for you. We want to make this as simple as possible, but our evaluation and our previous experience has been that most libraries this takes about 15 minutes. And anybody who updates websites can probably do it. Any questions on kind of that? There's a number of different options. I'll show you one of our favorite, and this is the Burlington Public Library used impact survey. So this is one of the options. So it's just one little line of code, and you put that into your index page. And then when your patron goes to your website, this image or one like it pops up. It's got a cookie embedded in it, so it will only pop up once for your patrons, so you don't have to worry about it. And that's a really effective way of getting people to do the survey through the website. We also have instructions on how to create a desktop icon or to change the desktop wallpaper to make it easy for patrons to click through from the desktop on their public access computers. We even have sample email messages that you can send to your email list with a link to the survey in it so that you can communicate with patrons with whom you have email lists. We also have, you can see on the right, signs that you can get right on your account that says "Take our survey," and it'll have your name in it, your library's name in it, and the URL that you can post up around your public access computers to let people know that the survey is going on. So lots of things that we're trying to help you with to increase your response rate. And make sure that you get a good data collection for your survey. And then one of the things that we're really excited about this time offering the survey is that we've created this map. So libraries that have more than one location, those libraries told us that they really wanted to see the survey results broken down by library location, by the branch location. And so we worked on that and developed this way of displaying branches to the users when they click through. This is Seattle Public Library's branches. Respondents can search by address so they can get the one that they usually use. They can also look at the map. And we're able to make it, again, so that you can close or add branches during registration, and that will make them appear on the map if you've established a new location. You may be able to see on the header there that there's some Spanish language. The survey is available in English and Spanish, and we hope in the future that we'll add some additional languages as well. So after this is done, then you would just simply remove the code from the website, or if you saved a copy of your index page, you could just replace the modified one, and that's it for the survey. And the very next day, you can go back to your account and download different kinds of documents to help you. A comprehensive report that shows every question in the survey, and then other things like PowerPoint presentation, flyers, op-ed, those kinds of things. And one of the things that we're really excited about is that we'll be able to keep adding different kinds of reports to the library as we hear from libraries, gee, it would be really nice to have a report that did this. We'll be able to take that information and actually create new reports as we hear about that. So we heard from one library, gee, it would be really nice if there was just a report that talked about technology, library technology use in employment, and didn't say anything else about the other domains. So we're able to respond to those ideas from the library community and actually design those kind of documents and make it available to obviously the person that suggested it, but also to everybody else that's used the impact survey. And again, all of these reports are populated with just your library survey results. So here's kind of what the comprehensive report might look like for your library. We have it so that you can upload your library's logo and a photo if you want to insert into some of the reports that have that. And you can see there are charts and graphs that the report contains, as well as some narrative that you can use to talk about what those pie charts and graphs are showing. So let me just go back there, and then I'll talk about kind of how some libraries have used this. Is there any questions that I can answer about how Impact Survey works? Questions about the technologies that you might have that you're wondering whether it would be compatible with? Carolyn, does anything come to mind for you as you've heard me in terms of how you can think libraries might be able to use this?
Oh yes, I mean, I guess my first thing is how long are you going to have this up? How long is this going to be around? Because I was thinking this would be really great, and as people use it, and I have, I can see that the Berlin Public Library has used it. As we go forward with grants, this is really very good. I'm working with several libraries, and I was thinking that this just gives you hard data to establish need when you need to go out to write things for foundations or granting organizations, or we're being asked increasingly to do things with outcomes-based evaluation, outcomes, and having hard data and impact on our customers. So all sorts of things that, yes, I can see that. So other folks, I'm hoping, go ahead and type if you have questions. But I guess,
Carolyn,
I haven't seen how we contact you. Yes? Sorry? Okay.
Well,
my one question is right now, how
right.
do we contact
So our email list is, our website is impactsurvey.org. We'll be, you can contact, so I'll put it in the chat too, but you can contact us through the website, impactsurvey.org. There's a contact us field, and you can also email me if you have specific questions that you want to ask. Those are both in the chat box. I wanted to answer your question about how long this will be available. First, it will become available in October. We're just working out some final little technology things. No web development project goes as planned, so we're a little bit behind, but we're wrapping things up, so it'll be out in October. We are building it out so that it will be there, forever, or for as long as there is interest in using it. So we're developing a sustainability model. Right now, it's free. In the future, there will be a small charge for libraries that will be based on their income. And when I say small, I really do mean it. We're talking somewhere for a small library around $50 a year to use the service, and for maybe a larger library, I can't imagine more than a $500 a year. And we'll be working with state libraries. So if the Washington State Library in the next year or so wanted to buy a license so that all libraries in Washington could use it, then we'd be able to work that out. The really nice thing about Impact Survey is because we've been building it to be as self-service as possible, there's really no incremental cost. So really the more libraries that use it, the cheaper it is for us to maintain, and all we will be trying to do with a fee is just recoup the expenses of hosting the survey and providing the support. So free for right now, small fee later. We hope that libraries recognize that the time that they save creating surveys and survey monkeys and analyzing reports will present a value proposition to them that's positive. And we also hope that having a research tool and research reports that are supported by and endorsed by the University of Washington will also help with the value proposition as well. So I'll see what happens, but our intention is to keep this going, to keep it fresh. So we'll continue to update the survey as things change. And then also we're looking at developing other types of surveys that libraries might be interested in offering. So this one is about mostly about public technology, but maybe you all want to have a survey that's about ebooks, or it's about some other aspect of library services. We'll start working on those as well. We're also working, just incidentally, on thinking through how we could offer this survey to libraries in Canada as well. Any other questions? I addressed the free charge.
Go ahead, Betsy has a question.
Oh, okay.
ahead, Betsy.
I think Betsy is typing in chat, and it just hasn't come across. I see her typing. But if you have a headset, you can click on talk. Oh, excuse me, I didn't have my headset on. Gwen Culp says, is it always standard questions or can you customize?
So the questions are standardized. All libraries will be asking their patrons the same survey questions. We don't have a mechanism for libraries to change the survey questions. And I recognize that for some libraries that might be something they'd be interested in doing. On the other hand, from our perspective, one of the things that having libraries all using the same survey instrument allows us to aggregate those results at different levels and allows different types of advocacy activities to occur, and also allows me to continue doing my research. So state libraries will have the ability to have access to aggregate reports of all the libraries in their states, and we'll also have reports that they can use that are designed for their use as well. So that's a reason to use the standardized questions, but we do hope to add some different survey instruments that libraries can access if they have other topics that they're interested in.
Okay, well, I see it looks like Betsy has canceled out of her chat, but Betsy, just don't hesitate to type it in, and if you do have a question, we'd be more than happy to answer it. So I'm just going to quickly see if anyone else has raised their hands, and I don't see that, so I think we can go on.
Okay. So Burlington Public Library and Maggie Buckholtz and everybody who's there are just really wonderful partners to my research group, and have participated in a lot of our work. And they participated in the impact survey in 2011, and one of the things that Maggie said was really important was how the impact survey really changed the perspective of the librarian. So we were really focused on giving you information to help with planning, and then giving you information to help with advocacy. But what we heard from Burlington, and what we also heard during our case studies across the country, is that this information really helped librarians understand their patrons better, made them more aware of how they interact with patrons, and made them really, I think, appreciate to a greater extent how people are benefiting from the technology and are using it for really instrumental purposes. During our study, we heard from a lot of librarians who were frustrated because the only information they had about what patrons were doing on the computers was what they happened to see over somebody's shoulder as they were walking by, what they happened to sit down with somebody to help them with, or worse, what was causing problems that attracted their attention. And all of that kind of led to a little bit of a skewed understanding of how patrons were using the computers, focus on a greater focus on how people are using it for Facebook and social media and game playing. That feels like when you're looking out over the sea of heads in your computer lab, that looks like what people are doing. But the research, I think, really opens up a different view into what's happening there, even within those kinds of activities. So your person that's doing Facebook may very well also be looking for a job there or networking there. They may be getting in touch with family and friends who are supporting them for personal issue. All sorts of different things that happen Even watching cat videos is kind of part of being engaged in culture and society and sharing laughter. So these things aren't have value in and of itself, and I think when librarians see the results and see things like 45% of their patrons that answer the survey are engaged in employment or educational related activities, it really kind of opens up some thinking about what those computers are there for and how they can really help people in their communities achieve greater independence and greater satisfaction in their lives. The other thing with that Burlington was able to do, they were facing some pretty severe budget cuts at the time, and they were able to use the results of their impact survey to go out and really talk about why the library is important, how people benefit from the services, and why the library continues to deserve support, especially during budget downturns. And so they were able to get some really great press. They were able to convince the city council and other departments within the city to restore parts of their budget, which made it possible for them to maintain their hours. And we heard stories like this in newspaper articles all around the country with libraries making use of that survey data in similar ways. So you put it to use and get it out there, it really can become very powerful. Maggie told me that she, even 2 years later, she continues to use the data and the reports as part of all of her advocacy activities. And she's very effective in putting together a story with the statistics that she gathered from the impact survey to really amplify her message and gain support. So, and we have on the service, on impact survey, we have instruction and some videos to help you take the survey data that you receive and use it for these advocacy purposes.
And that is, well, now she did this in 2011. It's now 2013. When would you suggest she do it again?
Mm-hmm. I would suggest, and we in fact exchange messages, that she do it as soon as we get it back up in October. We suggest that this is something that you do annually at least. Some libraries will think very strategically about when to deploy it. So some libraries that we've talked to who are looking forward to a capital improvement project, maybe opening up a new computer lab. They might run the survey a few months before they break ground on their new services, and then maybe 6 months or so afterwards, so they have before and after comparison. So all of those options are available, but once a year is about right for this, and to fit it into your cycle and your timeline, depending on, say, when your city council hearing is on your budget and those kinds of things, you can time it to have fresh information there.
Thanks.
So a few other features I just want to share with you about it. As I mentioned, the links, the images, the pop-up box, those things are what's known as hot links. So that means we host the images, which makes it a little bit easier for you to set up. But you can also create your own link and modify the code, and pretty much anybody with a little bit of HTML can figure that out. So if you have a certain look in our colors or the look of our buttons clash with your look, you're welcome to create your own. In your survey account, you'll have a real-time count of how many surveys you've collected. and that'll let you know if you're getting a low count or lower than you'd expect. Then you can increase the promotional activities that you're doing or possibly extend the survey fielding period. So maybe you thought, oh, 2 weeks will be enough to get a couple of hundred responses, but you find out a week and a half into it that you're not getting quite that high of a response rate or fast of a response rate. You can continue to extend that. So that's a nice feature. As I mentioned, you can add or close branches. We're really happy to be able to now offer libraries the ability to download the data set, which we have cleaned up and formatted to make it easy for you to do additional analysis in Excel or whatever spreadsheet program you might use. So if you have somebody on staff who's familiar with pivot tables in Excel or likes to create charts, they'll have access to the data to do that. People might want that so that they can do analysis of these different types of activities broken down by demographic characteristics. So you might want to know, what are the ages of people who are using the computers for employment versus the ages of people who are using the computers for education. So with the data set, you can do that kind of analysis on your own. We do include some of that analysis in the reports, but obviously there's a lot of demographic variables and we're not going to show you the crosstabs with all of the other variables. We've also created a state library portal where the state libraries will have access to aggregate data, so all the surveys that have been completed in the state, and also their own version of the reports for what we understand are state purposes. And then the final thing I want to mention is that the impact survey and the EDGE initiative are working very closely together. If you haven't heard of the EDGE initiative, that's a benchmarking framework for public access technology. So the EDGE initiative gives libraries kind of a framework of best practices and goals that measure where the library is, on how they can improve that. So impact survey works really well with that. The EDGE asks libraries to do planning and resource allocation based on community needs, and the impact survey gives you that that information that you need for, at least on the patron end of it. It also allows you to measure changes as you're measure the effect of changes as you're going through strategic planning. We also, the EDGE initiative suggests ways that libraries can advocate in their communities, and obviously the impact survey gives you tools and documents that you can use in those activities, so it facilitates that. And then obviously it's also showing the value that libraries are creating, and that's another important feature of EDGE as well. So a library who is doing EDGE, who's doing the EDGE assessment, will gain quite a bit of points, frankly, on the EDGE assessment by using the impact survey, and as well that the information on impact from impact survey will help them with a lot of other activities that are identified by EDGE as best practices. So we're working together. We're hoping that libraries that are completing EDGE also do use impact survey. That will give us researchers some really important data about how library activities and resources affect the types of outcomes patrons can achieve. So we're really excited to work with them and really excited to get some important data that could help libraries quite a bit in figuring out what the most effective activities they can engage in to help with digital inclusion in their communities. I did forget about one thing in additional features that's not on this list. We do have a paper version of the survey that you can download through your account. So you're given the option in the registration process to offer your patrons a paper version of the survey. And if you do that, then you download a paper version that will have your library's information embedded in it. If you do that, and a lot of libraries are doing that because maybe it's something that a patron can do while they're waiting for a public terminal, or maybe some of their patrons aren't as comfortable doing web surveys. When you collect those surveys, you're given a special data entry portal, and you will have to do data entry to transmit those results to us and make sure that they're included. So we did try to create a way of us just being able to scan those, but at least for now, that's not that cost effective for us, and it runs into a lot of timing and logistical problems. So we do ask libraries that use a paper survey to do the data entry themselves, but we made that a much more streamlined process. And most libraries that have done it found that it was perfectly reasonable use of staff or page time to do that data entry. So I just wanted to mention that. So questions, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, and also receive ideas. I know I heard from Carolyn that this information might be really helpful for grants. And I've heard that before, and so we're thinking about how could we design a report that would make a nice attachment to a grant application, and design a document specifically for that. So we're definitely really interested in what you're interested in and what would be helpful to you.
Have not told us for our Office of Financial Management Statistics what library they're associated with. So if you haven't already done that in chat, if you would type that information into us, we would really appreciate it. So Debbie, it looks like you are typing some things, and Betsy, did you want to say something? It looks like you clicked on your talk.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, I'm with the State Broadband Office. My question is whether or not there is a compilation of all the data in the survey that might be available. We're particularly interested in use of technology and consumer profiles as part of our continuing work with enhancing and extending broadband coverage throughout the state.
And I assume you're Washington State?
Correct. We're the Department of Commerce.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I've certainly talked to Will Saunders over there at the Department of Commerce and the Broadband Office about our work. We haven't really discussed sharing the data outside of the libraries that generate it in their state libraries. I don't have any particular objections to sharing some aggregate data with the State Broadband Office, but I'd like to just kind of have a discussion about what that means. But obviously, from our point of view, the more that this data can be used for advocacy and to increase support for public access technology and digital inclusion efforts, so much the better.
That would be great.
Okay, we do have some questions. Joanna from Neil Public says, you mentioned working on other surveys. Are there any that evaluate other aspects of library service, say the type of library programs, open hour allocation, things like that?
No, so right now all we have is the Public Access Technology Survey. It does, as I mentioned, ask about some other library services, but it's focused mostly on the things that are available through the library's website, like ebooks and audiobooks, access to databases, and those kinds of things. So we did add some of those questions to the survey because libraries were so interested and it's so pertinent. We don't have, oh, and we do also ask about attendance at technology training and whether or not the patrons are getting help from librarians. We have those things. We don't have any other surveys that would address those things, but I'm actually really interested in the idea of having what would really be kind of a needs assessment survey that could explore a lot of different areas for libraries, including hours open and things like that. So that's definitely something to think about, and thanks for suggesting it. And I'll keep that in mind for the future because it's not a bad idea. The survey does ask about satisfaction, and it asks.
Thanks for hanging in there while we have this hiccup with our broadband. It's been a little bit, oh, it looks like she somehow dropped off, and so she's coming back on. So we'll give her a chance to come back in. And in the meantime, if you have any
I'm here.
Questions, are you
yeah,
back?
I don't know what happened.
And we're glad you were able to get back in so quickly.
I'm not sure when I got cut off, but anyway, the idea of having some other, Joanna, the idea of having some other surveys that are more about evaluation and needs assessment is definitely something that I'd be interested in adding. So thanks for that suggestion. Any other questions that I can answer for people? Please do go to the website, impactsurvey.org. You can sign up there, and we will send you an email notification when everything is up and ready to go. We would love to have a lot of Washington libraries participate in the launch, and look forward to working with you. Get in touch with us if you have questions or suggestions for things that we can do to make this better for librarians.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And several folks have asked about the archive, and it will be up on our website. And Jennifer had included so if you want to scroll up and chat, you can find the exact link, and it should be up on our website today. So we hope that. Thanks for everyone, and you can, again, access this information at a later time. So, Jennifer.
It might be tomorrow simply because Matthew Edwards, our webmaster, is out and Jeremy might or might not be in. So it depends if Jeremy makes it in. But we'll get up there.
All right. Jeremy's always